was 1:30 a.m. in the night, but everyone was riveted to their chairs. The reason was Vidit Gujarathi was taking on Anish Giri. Now, these two players are good friends of each other, have worked with each other, and are also rivals. So, this game was very interesting and exciting to see as to what would happen, who would introduce a new idea. And there it began. Anish opened the game with d4. Vidit played knight to f6, c4, e6, knight to f3, d5. We have the queen's gambit declined, knight c3, and here Vidit stuck to his move that he played in this tournament. He played it in all the games with the black pieces. The point is that he is trying to play this system cd5 and not take back ed5 Tarash, not take back with the knight semi-Tarash, but actually take cd4. And I would even go to this extent to say this is Wesley So line, because Wesley So has played it with Magnus Carlsen, against Radjabov, against everyone, and he finds this to be the perfect weapon for solidity for black. Now the next move is going to come knight c6, kick the queen away, then develop your bishop, the other bishop, castle, and it looks very good for just the isolated pawn which is slightly weak. You get free flowing piece development. Okay, so Anish played e4, and this has been seen numerous times. Earlier, white players used to give a check, knight c6. Black players used to play knight c6, bishop b5, and then take on e4, and the lines would go on. But now they found it much more flexible to take first, because after takes, they have the option of later developing the knight to d7 as well. Okay, Anish went knight to g5, attacking the pawn on f7, and also he can pick up this pawn. Meanwhile, black, who has misplaced his king on d8, wants to quickly finish off his development, maybe knight d7 or knight c6, and has a great position. So this is the moment where a lot of games have been played before. Knight takes e6 looks very logical, because after fe6, bishop g5, knight c6, castles, king e8, bishop b5, rook c8. I'm just showing you how a line could go. Takes, and white can claim that he has a small edge here, but usually black is able to coordinate himself, bring his king here, rooks are exchanged, and if a well prepared black player like Vidit plays this, you can be sure that he would get equality. This is where I believe the small difference in this entire game took place, where Anish Giri just sort of blitzed out his move, bishop b5. I think he even pre-moved it, bishop b5. This is a novelty and a very, very interesting move. Now, what happened really interestingly is that Vidit had not seen it. While both players were blitzing out their moves, Vidit took 1 minute 23 seconds here. And I believe that if he had seen it before, he would have equalized it. But now doing it over the board in a 15-minute encounter is not easy. He played a6. Bishop went back. Knight bd7 was played. Now you can see that the knight is well placed on d7, and short castles was played. Again, all of this is preparation. The rook is quickly going to come into the game. The bishop may join in. Maybe the rook goes to e1. This rook goes to d1. It's all fine. But now I think Vidit made the move which I personally am not a big fan of. He played the move b5. And we'll come back to this. But the crux of this position is how to coordinate the bishop and the king. So if you can get the bishop out and then put the king on e7 and then connect the rooks, it's all fine. But I'm sure Anish had done his homework here. I'll just try to suggest one move which according to me looks interesting. First of all, knight c5 seems like the best move here. But after rook d1, king e7, you really don't like this position, and humanly it doesn't seem aesthetically pleasing. The move which I suggest is bishop b4. Now I quickly want to put my king here. So knight takes e4, knight e4, knight e4. Now I can't be naive and play king e7 here, because after a3, hitting this bishop, and you see these two squares are covered by the knight, you don't want to give up your dark squared bishop, so you go bishop a5. Now comes the move bishop to f4, and suddenly you are looking here, the rooks are coming in, black is in trouble. So this is exactly what Vidit should avoid, and that is the reason why here comes the move b5. I like this very much, and it's possible that Anish had some preparation here. But what I see is that after bishop b3, you take. Now this bishop can't be moved from here. So after king e7, it controls e1 square, so there is no pressure here. Also after bishop f4, it controls d6 square, so you can just connect the rooks. Maybe not this rook very soon because a6 is hanging, but just bring the rook, save your king somewhere, it should be fine. Also, if you go after b5, bishop c2, then I have rook c8 hitting the bishop, and this is very critical because after bd3, same king e7, a3, bishop f4, which was giving white an advantage here, is now met with bishop c7 and it's equal. So these are the little subtleties which Vidit had to solve over the board, but it's very difficult to do it. And that's why he lashed out with b5 and Anish instantly played the move bishop b3. Excellent move. In fact, not instantly, he took 2 minutes, but he got the crux of this position. Now e6 is hanging, and once you take here, the problem is knight takes b5 begins to hang. This is one of the big issues that Vidit will face in this position, and therefore you can't take on b3. So he went king e7 defending this e6 square, but again you see this traffic jam here. And now Anish may not have seen this exact position as preparation, but he must have seen the idea that knight c5 is an important move, and hence he goes, what's the move here, guys? Try to pause the video and find the move for white. Very nice move. Yes, bishop e3 stopping knight c5. In fact, many of you could think of bishop f4, but it doesn't help because then knight c5 and black tries to unravel. So king e7, bishop e3, good move. Now he goes h6, take on e4, king e8. Now Vidit is very keen on getting this bishop out. Bishop d4, keeping an eye on this pressure on f6 point, so that once again the pieces are a little bit cramped. And so Vidit now says, finally bishop b4. Next I want to play king e7, rook d8, rook c8, then put my king back. I'm very happy. Here Anish played a move that simply blew my mind. Just to give you an illustrative variation, if you take, play rook fe1, trying to make use of this pin, bishop c3, bc3, and king e7, black is equal. This is what Vidit wants. This is what he dreams of. And so here Anish played a very cool move. Try to pause the video and think. Rook a d1 is good, rook fe1 is good, but Anish went rook ae1. Very, very interesting move. And during the commentary, I was like, why is he bringing this rook? Well, you will know. And now the follow-up move is f4. You see, both the rooks are now perfectly positioned. This guy on f1 is supporting the f4 pawn. This rook is right opposite the king. Excellent play. Rook h d8 by Vidit. Now Vidit tried to be as resourceful as possible. You will see that. But he just doesn't have a way to stop f5 threat easily. King f8 means still the rook is trapped inside. So he went rook h d8, hoping that if he gets one more move, king f8, everything will be fine. Anish says, one move. That's what you're not going to get. One tempo. As they said, chess is a tragedy of one tempo. f5. Now he had to take the bishop. Knight f6. Cool move. Looking at check here. So you have to move your king. Now the material is even. If you take on b3, I'll take on f6. Vidit is very happy. Now everything is coordinated. Also, you can see the smart move rook h d8 was, if you play knight d7, rook d7, ab3, I can take on d4. So he had things under control, but this is where Anish came up with a great move. Pause your video and try to figure out white to play and the only way to play for a win. What did Anish do here? Knight to h5. Excellent move. Now looking at g7 square. Also b3 is hanging. So he had to save this bishop. Check. King here. Rook moves up. Rook is coming to g4 with 3 pieces already attacking. You can even count the rook on e1. He went king h7. I think the position is already very, very bad. Rook g4. Rook g8 was played. And there now came a nice move. Mating patterns. Not so difficult though. Knight to e4. Yes, you're giving up an entire rook just to show you this variation on the board. What a pretty mate. Killer watchman protector here. Beautiful. So bishop e7 was played, trying to hang on in here, and Anish said, well, I need to remove the defender. I have 4 pieces in the attack. This guy is still not doing his job. Rook d1. Get rid of this defender. Bishop e2. He took on d7. There was a faster way to mate here with rook d6. Very cute, because rook h6 is a mate. If you take bg4, rook h6 mate. If you play bd6, knight f6 is a mate. Cool. But you don't need to do all these. I mean, f6 is possible, and then the game goes on. But rook d7 is just very cool. Bishop takes g4, rook e7, bishop h5, and Anish had seen this idea, which was bishop to e5. And it might seem he's an exchange down, but how do you stop knight f6 check when the king has to enter these 2 squares in the firing line of the bishop, and then you lose this bishop with a check? There is no way to prevent it. Even a move like rook a d8, Anish was like, okay, there's nothing much that I can of course give you a check right now, but you might just come in and hassle my king, so I'll first play h3. He even found the time for h3, king h2, rook c8, check, take here, and rook a7. And this position has 2 pieces for a rook, also an extra pawn here, and that's all. Like, it's trivial for a player like Anish, and with it instantly blundered with rook d5. Very quick, guys. What's the way white will win here? Bishop g7 check, king g8, and knight f6 with a fork, and with it resigned the game. I basically think that the difference was made because of this one move here, bishop to b5, which Anish played, which was his home preparation. After that, he was just so much more confident. With it, used a lot of time. He couldn't find the right defensive setup. And maybe Anish doesn't use this anymore. This is not a powerful novelty. Black will equalize. But for that one game, he found this is what modern chess preparation is about. You find an interesting idea for one game, pose difficult problems to your opponent which they cannot solve, and win the game. Anish Giri proved to be the better player today. Congratulations to him, and all the best to Vidit for the next rounds. This is Sagar Shah signing off. Hope you enjoyed this small summary. Bye bye.